So today, I would like to start with a question. Have you ever watched the movies about a certain historical event, but the two movies tell the story in a completely different way? For instance, the 14-7 Ronin depicted a historical incident of Japanese samurais' revenge for the death of their master. And this movie was created in Japan in 1962 from Japanese perspective. But this movie was also created in America in 2013. And interestingly, as you can see from these two posters, it gives us completely different perception of what the actual event looked like. And this is not only in the films. Over the winter break, I read a book written by Minji Lin titled Pachinko. But just in case, this is not the Japanese popular gambling because I'm still 18 and I think I'm too young for that. When I was reading this book, I felt a sense of guilt. But the point is, I don't even know where that comes from. This is the story of one Korean family struggle during Japanese occupation until end of the World War II. When I was reading this book, I felt this sense of guilt because this is fiction, but still, the Japanese occupier treated Korean poorly just because Japan had a strong empire. And this kind of astonishment is not something that I can describe in a few words. And as this story is a real period in history, it got me thinking, can history define who we are? It also got me thinking about some personal experiences. I remember there was once, I was riding taxi in China, and then the taxi driver suddenly asked me, "What do you think about Nanjing Massacre?" when he heard that I'm from Japan. And I was like, what should I say? Obviously, I didn't want to offend anyone because I was aware of the fact that half of my identity is in China. I'm half Japanese, half Chinese. But the point is, I didn't fully understand why the taxi driver asked me this kind of question, even though I wasn't alive in 1937. So, I answered, it happened a long time ago, but Japan has more responsibility, maybe. I answered in this way because I thought we can't ignore the fact that Japanese killed thousands of Chinese. But how do you answer this kind of question from a total stranger, or anyone? I answered in this way just because the taxi driver asked me this in China. But if someone else asked me this in Japan, I would probably answer this a different way. So this answer kind of triggered me to think for a long time. And also, this experience kind of made me realize that history can shape the way we perceive others, but also shape the way we build human relationships. For example, in Japan, students learn about Nanjing Massacre as Nanjing Incident. And this use of language already shows how one nation can perceive a historical event differently from others. But the question is, why the nature of history binds people together? Is this because of the textbook or the national curriculum? Even if it's both, I believe history is a really powerful tool because depending on where you come from or where you learn a certain historical event, we perceive this world or we see this world in a completely different manner. So, brings me back to the book. The book gave me a chance to think about the way people perceive history. I'm not Korean, but this book was written by a Korean American related to the story related to Japan. And of course, we all come from different backgrounds and the knowledge that we gain from history might differ from another perspectives. But another question for all of you. So sometimes, are we triggered emotionally too much by the history and not looking at the present? After all, the question from the taxi driver, can history define who we are? In my opinion, we can learn so much from history, but we can use that knowledge to build a better relationship with one another. Because I think it's such an irony. Now, K-pop is like a world phenomenon. And look at BTS. Everyone knows BTS probably, and especially young generation loves BTS no matter where they come from. Or China. The government may encourage anti-campaigns or whatever, but still, there's thousands of Chinese travel to Japan every year. Well, not obviously this year, but still. And the point is, people interact with each other so well. And why is that? I have friends from Japan. China, or even Korea. So I really do believe that people are just people. So we can learn so much from history that makes us, that teach us to be a better human. But it really doesn't have to need to define the way we are or the way we behave. So please, try to see history or the event itself from multiple perspectives. Personally for me, I really do appreciate my friends who come from different backgrounds and nationalities because they're the people who make me realize the importance of perspectives and not judging people based on our historical knowledge or background. But to be honest with you all, if, just in case it's if, the taxi driver asked me the same question again, I don't know what I would say because it's kind of a sensitive topic here. But one thing I know is what I would do. I'll make a small conversation with the taxi driver, and hopefully I can leave a big smile on the driver's face when I get off the taxi. Thank you.